Hey everyone, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel. And this is your daily Uncut news. So I want to start with this. You know that whole Nikola thing? Their CEO, Trevor Milton, is found guilty of fraud. It really happened, both the guilty and the fraud. So this is an important lesson for y'all that there is corruption in the stock market. People do lie to you and people do cheat you. And do remember there was a bunch of YouTubers pumping this thing. And please write in the comments which ones were. This ended up being a total fraud, and we've seen this before with other things like the whole crypto stuff. And it also too happens with companies. So this is a real thing, and this is an interesting thing. This is the I'll read it to you guys. Federal prosecutors and defense attorneys delivered diverging portraits of Nikola's former executive chair during the trial. So basically, the government, you could say, made one case, and then the defendants made another case. And it's funny the difference between the two sort of cases of why the guy is either innocent or guilty. While prosecutors described Milton was a, quote, con man who purposely misled investors to boost the company's share price, Milton's defense team described him as a gifted entrepreneur. So depending on your side, he was either a con man or a gifted entrepreneur. And I guess there's always a fine line between that. I'm looking at you, Elon. Quote, who built Nikola from out of his basement. So, and you could make the case with Apple, that kind of stuff. It's just kind of funny. Are they con man / gifted entrepreneur? And I mentioned Apple because you know, sometimes people say it's just a big marketing machine, and it is. But you know, the difference between, to be fair, guys, between they say like a Nikola and then like a Tesla or Apple is like Tesla and Apple. You can boast about said products, but they actually do deliver said products. They may not necessarily work to the degree that you know you would like them to, because like for example, Apple always says, guys, we have the best iPhone in history. And they're not really lying, right? The question would be like, you know, by how much more is this iPhone this year better than last year, that kind of stuff. And then when Tesla keeps saying, hey guys, FSD's coming next week, it's coming next week, you know, it's not really true. But they're not necessarily flat out lying, right? This is the trick. Whereas Nikola is like, hey, we've got a truck, it works, everything's great. And you should invest money, and basically they didn't have a truck that worked and it wasn't great. And so this is a other thing about it is a quote, let this case serve as a warning to anyone who plays fast and loose with the truth to get investors to part with their money. And then they said this won't end well. So I just wanted to bring this up because this is a, like I said, it's a fine line between con man and creative, or they say talented entrepreneurs is the quote. Gifted entrepreneurs is the quote. Also, too, in the UK, they fired the chancellor after, 38 days. So this is Kwasi. You've been seeing these people all over the news. I'm sure you know. To be perfectly frank, if I were in the UK, I would have zero confidence in the government. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this one. And, you know, the markets have been showing this as well. I want to go over the duties of the chancellor. So remember, Kwasi was fired after... 38 days, and this is their responsibility. So let's read through it so you guys have a general sense of what it is. So Chancellor of the Executor. So the Chancellor Executor is the government's chief financial minister. This is all in the UK, and as such is responsible for raising revenue through taxation or borrowing, controlling public spending. Right. So they're supposed to either increase the revenue by taxing or borrow money and control spending. Right. So budgeting. He has overall responsibility for the work of the Treasury. The chancellor's responsibilities uncovered, and this is what they're supposed to do. Fiscal policy, right? So that including and presenting the annual budget. And there was a whole issue where like they weren't showing the people the budget. They were like, "Hey, what's going on with the budget? Oh, we're not going to show you till Halloween." Like, what's going on? And it just wasn't really a great answer. What else are they supposed to do? Monetary policy, setting inflation targets. Okay. Ministerial arrangements. So this is in his role as second Lord of the Treasury. And overall responsibility for the Treasury response to COVID-19. So this is from the official government website as well. So basically, they're in charge of the money system in the UK, and it's quite interesting because there was a lot of hoopla that the Conservatives were going to essentially change the tax system and help everyone with their energy bills. Basically that increase spending and decrease taxes coming in. So. If you're wondering like how does that add up, and the answer is it doesn't add up, and we have a similar situation here in the USA. So this is why I've been making a video about that. And if you haven't seen that video, just check it out, please. I try my best to give you guys like an overall of what's going on in the market. But these couple stories, one fraud with the Nikola, and now we have this like turmoil in UK. It's hard to feel confident about this stuff. I don't know what to think. What's going on over there? All right, so this is according to Truss. This is a quote. We need to act now to reassure the markets of our fiscal discipline. And then they're talking about their mini budget here, and there is 45 billion of unfunded tax cuts, meaning that yes, you can cut taxes, but like, how are you going to pay for government services and things of that nature, right? So we got to figure out where the money's going to come from. And they went further and faster than markets were expecting, meaning that the taxes and the budgeting was like bigger than what the markets wanted, and that's why the market's been in turmoil. And then the Bank of England was trying to bail them out. This is Citigroup, though. However, Citigroup is saying we do not expect financial concerns to abate as a result of today's action, meaning that we're still worried if UK makes any sense, if the numbers add up, which they don't. And I mean, we'll see. I honestly don't know what's going on. And every time I read something about UK, it seems like they're always changing what they're doing. And then even Citigroup's saying this about the UK. Instead, we believe further market instability likely lies ahead. So that's what's up with that. We also have a bit of corruption going on in the Fed. This is a real thing. This is Fed Bostic. And essentially what's going on is, I'm sure you guys know, the Fed sets interest rates. They have all these, essentially closed-door meetings. And there's periods when they're not supposed to trade stocks, essentially. And evidently he was. I'll read through it, and then we'll get to, I'll share my opinion and get yours as well. The head of the Federal Reserve's Atlanta branch violated, that's not a good thing, violated the U.S. Central Bank's trading rules and restrictions. The regional bank's board disclosed on Friday, reignited one of the worst reputational crises in institutional history. So this is not a good thing, right? Okay. Transactions were found to be made on behalf of Raphael Bostic, who has served as the president of Atlantic Fed since 2017, during the blackout period when trading activity is prohibited ahead of meetings where monetary policy is set. So essentially, like, there's a period where they're just not supposed to sell because they have their meetings, and then like right now, Federal Jerome Powell comes out and announces, "Hey guys, we're raising the interest rates and we're going to crash the market." Oh, okay, and these people, they know ahead of time. So it is certainly a different type of insider trading, right? Because usually think of insider trading as being having inside information of companies, but this is like insider information of what the government is doing. It is a real thing. And this is a quote from Bostic, and you guys decide what you think for yourself. So there's a quote from him. "I have come to learn, however, that while I did not have the ability to direct trades in these accounts, the transactions directed by third parties, not just the assets themselves, should have been listed on my annual financial disclosure forms." Okay. I want to be clear. At no time did I knowingly authorize or complete a financial transaction based on non-public information or with any intent to conceal or sidestep my obligations of transparent and accountable reporting. So there was a similar thing as well. I want to say it was Rand Paul. I had to think of the name. I think it was Rand Paul. And basically, it was interesting. So he made the case that, I just forgot to disclose my trades, right? This is a case of Bostic. He's not really saying I forgot to do things. He's just saying a third party did it. And you'll hear that one as well from politicians or officials, that, I'm not in control of it. It's a third party. Or, like I said, the other one would say, I just forgot to, update my records, or I forgot to send an email. That's what Rand Paul excuse was. I had the email, but I forgot to send it. I mean, I don't know what the truth is of this stuff, but it always sounds a bit fishy because it's not like these people don't know the rules. These are not stupid people, right? This is not a stupid person. He knows the rules. So, whether or not the third party, just to be fair, whether or not there's a third party that doesn't know the rules, who knows? Also, to be fair, it could be automated. Like, maybe he has an account and robots are doing it, but, I'll leave that up to you guys. I don't know, but it does not a good look. And in my opinion, politicians or even Fed officials shouldn't really own stocks. I'm fine with index funds or just that kind of thing, having money managers handle it. But there's always a conflict of interest with this stuff. Also, too, the people who write the laws control the laws, etc., and they don't necessarily want to change the rules that would hurt them financially. And on the other side, to be fair, which people don't talk about enough, if you want to get good people in office and good people to, essentially work for the public good, you don't necessarily want to hinder their ability to make money. And I don't mean that in a nefarious way. I just mean like for example, let's say I But just for example, let's say I bought Apple stock, 20 years ago, and I want to hold on to my stock. And if I, took a job at the government, then they would say, hey, you got to sell all your stock. And so that's kind of a deterrent from people to, we need smart people and intelligent people in government, in my opinion. And so I just want you to understand that there is an argument for that as well. So we'll have to figure out some rules on these things, because I think obviously we want a fair playing field, and I think the egregious thing would be like official gives a contract to a particular company, right? And they make a bunch of trades and buy up a bunch of stock of that said company and stuff like that. So that's kind of stuff is obvious. That shouldn't be a thing, but we got to figure out how to make this fair and equitable for everyone. Going back to the market as a whole, I always try to show you guys this stuff so you know where we are, so you're not like out in the wilderness wondering, oh, where's stocks going? But we know pretty much what's going on. You take a look at this. So these numbers are old. We'll update it in a couple days. This is on October 7th, so just be aware. These numbers are old, but just still gives you a general sense of where we are. So this is the value of the market to the GDP, right, to the economy, essentially. And this is saying, hey, we are 20% overvalued. This is the trend line right here, right? Just so you get a general sense of where we are. This is another way. This is the S&P 500 PE ratio. That's the price of stocks compared to how much money the companies earn. This is suggesting we're 32% above average, right? And so the idea here is that markets tend to trade on a trend line or tend to trade on an average, pace. And this just gives you a sense of where we are. And I've been showing this, guys, to people all year, and people always say I'm so stupid, I'm so dumb, but all I have to say is the numbers speak for themselves, and that's all I can say. So you can choose to live in reality or not. It's up to you, and you can choose to believe numbers or not. It's up to you. But to me, like when you see this stuff, it's pretty obvious that like, look at this. And the problem is, and also to be fair, we just had this bubble for so long, and so like that's why people are like, well, it's a bubble, it's a party, and keep dancing until the music is going, which is also true. But understand that the monetary policy is changing. Before we're basically printing a whole bunch of money, and now we are not. And you have to understand that we're not. And so all these YouTuber people out there telling you that, oh, just keep buying, everything's going to explode before because it's exploded again. Those are people that have no experience in the market and don't study history, right? If you understand that the money printing era is over, there's less money going to be pumped in the system. This is what's going on. Now, also to be fair, who knows? Maybe they start printing again, because that's our modern financial policy. And I'll put some videos and you guys should watch this. You just don't know that kind of thing. But I'm just saying, right now we're 21% above the trend line. Even you guys can see right here. And if this were to hold, this for example, let's say there, that would put us at like 3,000 on S&P or something like that. But who knows exactly where it's going to go, because you can go below the trend line, right? You guys can see that, because I lived through .com, I lived through 08, 09. And it was pretty scary, about 10-year period of like not so good in the market. So, people who just say the market's, no risk, you're always going to make money. It's just simply not true. There's always risk with this kind of stuff. I want you guys to be aware of that. So you got to manage your risk is really important. S&P 500 P ratio, if you want raw numbers, is currently sitting at 18.1. The mean is 16, so I've been saying it for a long time. Just keep an eye on these numbers so you have a general sense of where we are. This gives you a real good chance to do better in the market than just buying all the time, all day, every day. It doesn't really work that way if you want to do well. Also, too, ARC is actually in the 5-year chart. This is a fun one. We've been talking about this as well. It is now down 2.44% on the 5-year chart. And basically, in the last 5 years, is made a round trip, but a little bit down. So this represents the frothiness in the market. And in fact, one of the things that I would say is definitely once you get all of this money out of the market, all this crazy speculative tulip chasing stuff out of the market, then you can definitely see a bottom. And this is an interesting thing, because I want you to point out as well is where is the bottom exactly, right? There's a couple, we looked at valuations, remember, price of stocks based to earnings that companies make. But also consider this as well. ARK Invest is sort of your frothy, speculative stuff. Bitcoin is the king of speculation, and this is essentially an important thing to understand. Is Bitcoin started, right around here, 2010-ish, right? 2009, 2010-ish. There's why these dates are important. This is after the crash of 08, 09. And the government essentially set interest rates really low and started printing money, basically. Now, Bitcoin was a response to, well, if the government's just going to print a bunch of money, that means that we're going to have inflation, and your fiat currency is worthless, essentially. It's the idea. Or the money supply is always going to be growing. Bitcoin is not going to grow, right? There's always going to be a finite amount of supply, and therefore there will be value there. I mean, guys, I really get it. The problem with Bitcoin is it's not really backed by governments except for El Salvador, maybe another one or two other countries, but I'll just say El Salvador officially. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because, remember, this was created in an era of free and cheap money. So where Bitcoin goes from here is really interesting to see. I personally don't believe in this stuff. But I get the argument for it, and I believe me, guys, I get it. And especially too, if you're young kids, it's fun to invest in stuff. And yes, for the last, well, I guess 13 years, it's been great, right? I get it. I can read charts, but understand that the time is different, right? Take a look at this as an example: 10-year Treasury rate, 4%, which is really interesting because we may see a situation to where 5 is where the balance is. And the reason why I mention that is because this is a Bank of America. They come up with this thing of like asking, are we going to be in a lost decade? And remember, we were talking about stocks to where like I'm just telling you guys, after the .com all the way to 0809 is like stocks were just going not so good, and this was just a rough period. Now, could we do that again? Now, Bank of America is saying like year over year. We may be looking at 6% annualized rates from here. So just like if you put your money in like index fund, you get 6% a year for the next 10 years, for example. And it's kind of interesting because if you'd say, okay, I'll put my money in Treasury, I'll get 4%. So it may balance out to where the bond to stock like sort of comparison may end up being equilibrium or something of that nature. And this is sort of where people are thinking like, do I want stocks? Do I want bonds? Do I want cash? I myself right now, dollar is really, really strong. We're up like 20% on many currencies, up 30% on some currencies. It is absolutely unreal. So that's been the play this year, actually. That's why I mentioned, you guys, if you want to live abroad or travel abroad, it's a good way to go. This is sort of what I want you to understand is that, in the past, yes, stocks, Bitcoin, all that stuff, it made a lot of money. Absolutely, 100%. But you have to understand that sometimes fiscal policy changes and the world changes, right? It's kind of like, the Model T comes out, which is cars, with Ford, and do you still want to be buying horses during that period? And obviously, you guys, the answer would be no more time to buy horses. Same way that, I get it. There's a lot of people out there like, oh my God, I'm going to buy movie theater stock because movie theaters are going to go to the moon. But we're in the era of Netflix, right? We're in the era of like really cool home speakers. So just understand where you are in history and where you are in the charts. That's why I show you guys this stuff all the time. Also, too, in the news, Netflix, or not Netflix, Starlink, Elon Musk, he's just saying they can't afford to do the basically internet kind of, it's like a satellite internet stuff basically in Ukraine, asking for the government for help. So we'll see. I guess it's $400 million in a year. So we'll see what the government says on that. I don't know. No prediction on that. Also, this is a big news, and this is kind of things that sometimes people sleep on. I mentioned to you guys this a couple days ago. This is the kind of news that, like I said, people sleep on, but this will really affect your daily life. So basically, Kroger's buying Albertsons. It needs still to be approved by the government, but as I mentioned before, I have a problem when you have less competition in a market, right? You want more competition, and the argument they're going to make is, if we're one big company, we can be more efficient, we can therefore make more money. But I would say, you have just say one or two big companies, there's only a few places to work, and you also have less competition in price and et cetera. So, I prefer not to live in monopolies / oligopoly kind of situation. But if you have the money, you can buy off government officials, you can do anything you want. So just to be aware of this, this is a really big deal, actually. It really is. We're talking about food. We all buy food. And the last one, which is kind of funny, it's kind of a similar one. So I guess Fox and News Corp are I guess that they are combining, it looks like. Yeah. Or no, they're exploring it. So I guess it's not official yet, but the Wall Street Journal and then Fox News would become one. And this is another case of where I want multiple sources of stuff, of news that is. And this is sort of why I think people turn to, places like you guys are here watching me on YouTube and stuff like that. Now, the difference, though, and I want to keep it real with you guys. So the main difference between, say, like a YouTube and a big major news media outlet is we're under different standards here on YouTube. So people on YouTube can say just crazy crap all day, every day, right? And they can claim freedom of speech. So that is a real thing. And also, too, to be fair, in the major news media, right, they're dependent on advertising. And so they would not say bad things about people who are giving them money, which is not so different on YouTube to where, and that's why I warned you guys about this several times, where like when YouTubers are bought off by certain companies, which is a real thing to pump up particular stocks like Nikola or something like that, just for an example, or promote NFTs, that kind of stuff. So, it's hard to know who to trust in these kind of things. And I guess my main thing would say is someone is constantly selling you something. Be very, very leery of that. And there's many people, be it on TV or be it on YouTube, that spend like 2 minutes every day. Oh my God, this is the hottest thing ever, ever, ever. And that's usually a dead giveaway. Or someone's like, oh my God, you have to, open up set account or stuff like that. So, full disclosure, right? I have affiliate links just like everyone else. But I don't spend all day, every day pushing these things. I just don't. And it should be obvious from how I run my channel. So do be aware though that this is a thing where I guess companies will be merging. And I mentioned to you guys before that because stock prices essentially, the stock, which is ownership of a company, are crashing in many things, there will be opportunities in the market. It's tough, but I'm just saying there will be, because there are going to be some companies that are actually legitimate companies, and the big ones are going to come in and buy up the little ones. And so there will be opportunities there. But if you can figure out which ones they are, please let me know. I have a few guesses here and there, but there's no guarantees in this world, especially when money is not as tight. So if you enjoy this stuff, I hope to see you back again. This is the Daily Uncut News.